Hi, welcome to CCTV Channel 17, live at 525, the Preservation Burlington Show. Preservation Burlington is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization whose mission is to preserve and protect the historic architecture and livability of Burlington through education and advocacy. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight for our monthly program. You can see preservationburlington.org on the bottom there, and I'm really pleased to have my neighbor, and I'm going to say we're friends, even though we don't catch up enough, Bill Mars, who's doing a humanities beer talk for Preservation Burlington coming up real soon. And I just want to mention that to everybody that you're the bee expert. And I've forever wanted one of those.
The expert, that's the person with a PowerPoint from out of town. So, it's I've done it a long time, but I'm not an expert.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody mentions you, and I always wanted one of those beehives you can mount to your window so you can kind of see them.
Oh, they're cool
from inside.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
I still want to do that, so I might be knocking on the door and picking your brain one day.
Good.
But do you want to tell everybody about the beer background? We're here to talk about beer.
Oh gosh. Well, very quickly, when my wife and I moved to St. Johnsbury in 1970, we went out and we lived out in the woods, sort of, and we wanted to do all these little back to the land stuff and raise animals and this and that. And there was a guy in town who was a retired geologist and a beekeeper, and he was like the Pied Piper of beekeepers. And he'd love to teach beekeeping to people wanting to learn it. And so I started, and you start a lot of hobbies, and some of them last and some of them don't. But this one really stuck around for now 52 years. But it became a really great hobby, Bees are incredible. I mean, they're
amazing.
It's citizen science. There's a beekeeper in Middlebury who says the bees are the color. Everything else is black and white, and you're always learning. They're humbling. You lose them. Sometimes they die, but they produce these wonderful products of wax and honey, and now I have 4 partners. We sell $6,000 or $7,000 worth of honey, City Market, and several others, and it pays our expenses.
Yep.
And we have this satisfaction of actually selling this product that the bees made. We didn't make it.
Right. You're helping market it for the bees.
So I have bees behind the house, and each partner has bees behind her house and his house, and then we have some in the intervale.
Oh wow, cool.
So it's a great hobby.
Yeah, that's fun. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. So do you make mead? Isn't mead made
with
honey? I
made mead one year, and I decided 2 things: that it didn't taste that well, and it was too much deferred gratification. You had to wait a year before you really found out, because it was wine, and found out if it was any good. And so that was the only time I ever made anything alcoholic with honey.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you decided to switch to beer?
Well, at the same time we started doing bees, it was a very primitive time. You still homebrewing
back in the 70s, like
70s, 73, 74. Homebrewing was illegal.
Yeah.
And ingredients were really primitive. The first batches that I made were made with blue ribbon hopped malt and Fleischmann's bread yeast and water. And the first batch blew up. I mean, it was like blew up in the basement. And but it started to get better, and then
how did you teach yourself? You decided, we're out here in the country.
There were some books.
I want some beer.
Well, there's Whole Earth catalog.
Okay,
that had a couple of really pretty primitive recipes. Mm-hmm. One of them, one of the directions was when you put it in the fermenter, just brush off the foam and flies.
Good advice, I guess.
But then gradually, ingredients started to come from England, and I used to go down to a homebrew store in Northampton, Mass. This is even before 1978, when Jimmy Carter signed a bill that made homebrewing legal.
Ah.
And after that, then a home brewing, micro brewing group, our I don't know, industry, as you were, began in the Northwest, in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado. And so you got more, excuse me, more equipment. And then at the parallel with that, you had a few people started to make microbreweries. So in the middle of maybe 70, 80, I guess 80, I was working on another book, a book with, very serious book about economic democracy. And my publisher in New York, I'd taken him several bottles of my beer. He said, well, what do you think about this whole home brewing movement? I said, well, I don't know. I'll go find out. So I ended up spending the next couple of years writing another book, and I went out to California and visited some of these
To check in with these places.
To check in with these places. And I went, Chris, my wife, and I, we went to England and visited a bunch of breweries there, and then came back and wrote this book, the first edition of this book.
I'm going to just hold that up for a minute and we can zoom in on it.
Yeah, this is the third edition, but it was called Making Beer, and the subtitle was How to Make Your Own Great Beers, but also resist the temptation to start your own brewery. And so that was my odyssey of going out on this quixotic
So it was also, it's a cautionary tale.
cautionary tale, and the last chapter was called Home to Homebrew. But the book was a success. It sold, I don't know,
So
20.
what year was this?
The first one was 84.
Okay.
And then I did another one.
So you had already been brewing your own stuff for a while.
I had.
And learned.
And then there were, at that time, there
Legally, I might add.
were, well, 78, it was legal.
Oh, after that, it was okay.
But in 70, so 84 was the first one. There were less than 10, probably 8 microbreweries in the country. And then 10 years later, I did another version, and there were 600.
Oh my God. In 10 years.
Within 10 years. And I used to get calls from people around the country saying, oh, I read your book, I wanted to, but didn't you see the last chapter? The last chapter says go to homebrew. But they said, no, I'm going to do a brewery. So people, they got into various ways of doing it. So people had to decide, are they going to make ales or lagers? Because the technology is different. They had to decide, are they going to do a regular brewery, standalone brewery, or a brew pub? And you couldn't do brew pubs in Vermont. Well, then, wonderfully, a guy named Greg Noonan came up from Massachusetts, and he knew that I was a home brewer, and I was in the legislature. He said, let's try to get a law passed to have it be legal for
Yep.
So it took us 2 years, but we got it passed in fall of '88.
So they had a man on the inside.
Well,
You.
Yes, I was the one that helped draft it, and I had a couple of sponsors, and then, so it became the Pub and Brewery became the third brew pub on the East Coast.
This is the Vermont Pub and Brewery right down there
yeah,
on
yep,
corner
yep,
of
on College and St. Paul.
St. Paul. Yep.
Yeah, so it's still there.
Yeah.
So if you go inside, there's a picture of me cutting the ribbon. So I had this.
Wait, what year was that again?
88.
88.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
the next episode was a guy who was, I got to know, he and I kept bees together. He was a brewmaster at Magic Hat. And we kept bees behind there. And then later on, he became brewmaster at Switchback. And then we decided that maybe we could do a Belgian-style brewery, which didn't involve big tanks and so forth. It was mostly, and in effect, we did that. So that's what this book is.
Different process?
Different process, different yeast, sour beers, Belgian-style sour beers.
Yep. Okay.
So you keep them in oak barrels for a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, almost more like a wine kind of process, right?
But
and then they go right to the bottle.
The alcohol is still down in between 5 and 7%. It's not a wine, but it's a very, how would you say? It's a very multicolored or multi-flavored beer, and plus it's quite bitter. So we always said that, excuse me, the first sip you have someone who said, Jesus Christ, that stuff's taking the enamel off my teeth. And then the second sip is,
Second,
that's
better.
pretty interesting. And then the third sip is, where can I get more?
Yeah, right.
So we did that and did that for 5 years, and now.
Now, did you do that in a commercial way?
Well,
or?
we did it in a bay in at Noise Tire, and that's where
Okay.
we started. And then we moved it down to Nordic in Charlotte, and then we sold it to Foam Brewers. So now it's part of their menu.
So
of
they
beer.
do that. Now they do that here.
No, they don't do it here. They do this. The House of Fermentology they do down in Charlotte.
Still in Charlotte.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Now, so when did that start? How long ago did that start?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were back to 1988 when Greg Noonan was starting the Vermont Pub and Brewery. So that was pretty much the first micro brew in Vermont.
No. There were a number of microbrews. This is the first brew pub.
Oh, okay.
Because that was really one of these forks in the road where people could decide, do I want to have just a brewery and just focus on that, or do I want to split my income between a restaurant and a brewery?
Right. In
and
the
there,
same place.
excuse me, there are pros and cons to both of those.
Yeah. I know people still struggle with that decision. I noticed.
They do, but you look at I mean, you can look at Burlington Beer Company, and they have a big restaurant, but that's not really a brew pub because they do a lot of selling of beer out into the general market. And Zero Gravity does the same thing. They have a restaurant there, but they also put most of their beers going out for sale in traditional pathways. So I think there are a number of ways that people
So a
skin this
brew
cat.
pub is generating beer for their own use.
Yes,
basically.
Yes, almost exclusively.
Yeah,
that was the
okay.
traditional idea.
I get you.
And it came from England and had been around for a long time. And then they started again, probably in the 90s, out in Oregon or Washington State.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, in the 80s. And
Right. I know I have a friend in Colorado who's always bragging about Colorado's
beers.
The beers. Yeah.
I know. The Colorado
First
and
and
Oregon they compete with each other, but the big competition is between Vermont and Oregon, and we go back and forth as to who has the most breweries per capita.
Right. Okay. Where are we at now?
Well, I think we're either first or second, and last year we were first, and then the year before I think it was Oregon.
Yeah, it's funny. I know so I moved up here in 98, I guess, about 10 years after Greg, after you changed the laws so Greg could open his place. And it was one of the first places I went to. And for years now, it's just been like this explosion. Like you said, I mean, you went from a handful to 600 in the course of a few years, and then.
Well, I'll tell you I'm just thinking of a great comment about the Vermont brewing industry came from Governor Scott. There was the annual meeting of the Vermont Brewers Association, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, was down at Lawson's in Waitsfield.
Oh, yeah.
And this is at a time when there were about 50 breweries in the state, something like that. But Scott got up and he said, the great thing about the brewing industry in Vermont is that it's spread out across the state. It's not all concentrated. It's not like the, Detroit or some, it's all not concentrated in Chittenden County. And if you look at a map, you see that there's a lot of different small breweries. Maybe they employ 2 or 3 people, but they bring tourists in, and they're a real good contribution to the overall economy of the state.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
They really are. Hills Farmstead is up there.
Oh my gosh, yes.
One of the famous ones, right?
That's right.
It's fairly big, but not huge. Right. And I know I'm a fan of Queen City Brewery.
Yep.
So I go there on the weekends, and we're constantly sitting with people from around the country.
Well, 60. Oh, you are really?
Yeah.
Around that horseshoe table.
We're going to change the name of Pine Street to Pint Street.
That's good.
Because
I like that.
My father-in-law's joke.
I like that. Yeah, because if you look and you've got Switchback, Queen City, Zero Gravity, Citizen Cider,
Yep.
and what else is that the 4? No.
Those are the
Thought
big
there was-
ones, right? And then, well, Burlington Brew around the
And
corner.
Burlington Brew, yeah,
Burlington
that
beer.
counts as a Pine Street, yeah. I know, and you don't even have to be in a bus to go on a drinking
you
tour
practically
along.
walk,
You
right.
walk or stagger.
Yeah, yeah.
I
know.
think it's really cool.
It is. It's fun, and like you said, it is a boon for the economy for sure.
When I was in the legislature back in even before the brew pub thing, I was part of a group called the Pine Street Business Association, and it was Bruce Cipher from the city and Steve Conant,
Yep.
and a number of other people, and we tried to energize business development along Pine
That
Street
corridor, yeah.
and little did we know that it would become
Yeah,
Pine
you did
Street.
a great job.
Pine Street. I love it.
You did a great job. Yeah. I know. So did that basically become? Now we're off topic, but only a little bit. The South End Arts and Business Association.
Yeah,
It did.
it
Okay.
did, it did.
Yeah.
And
I love Steve. I'm good friends with Steve,
Yeah.
and I've had my own commercial space on
Yeah.
Pine Street in several locations, and now we're on Flynn Avenue. But
you're on. Oh, are you? Where on Flynn Avenue?
we're the second floor of Metalworks. We took over that space. We're right next to the co-op, on the wrong side of the tracks,
Oh, okay. You mean on the
across from Burlington Beer and
Oh.
and Switchback.
Oh gosh, way back in there.
Yep.
Gosh, yeah.
Yep. Right there. Metalworks has been there forever. I know Joe. I know. I love the industrial past. I love that arts community
Yeah.
of the South End.
Oh no, it's a great street. Well, two great streets.
I tell everybody that again, I've had a shop in Burlington for 20-something years now, but I have to have my shop near a good brewery. So
Well,
I can
not
take
for lunch, though.
I can, no, after lunch. 12:15, 12:35.
Well,
and
you're lucky. I mean, gosh, yeah, because I went and in this talk that I'm going to give,
Yeah.
Bob asked me to get pictures of all the breweries in Burlington,
Oh.
and
he gave you homework.
I actually I've got to put one in. I've got a bunch of them from Foam, and I haven't put them in, but I did find that, excuse me, the building, or at least the block where 7 Days is, there on Champlain,
Yep.
was a brewery for about 80 years. It was Peterson Brewery, started in 1860s and lasted probably until Prohibition. And so I have a picture of the map, one of those maps
Like
of
the
Burlington.
Sanborn map
And
or
you-
something?
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones with the city downtown, and you can see Peterson's Brewery, and it's right there.
Wow, 80 years it was there?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So, anyway,
That's neat. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that talk. When is that coming up?
Monday
Okay.
at the, I don't know, I can't remember what they call it, but it's the old German club there on Crowley Street.
Then it was the Champlain Club for a while, and now I also am blanking on it. It's on our website, so people can go check it
okay,
out.
good.
And find the name. It's it's got
Well,
a fancier name, but
we hope people will come and
they do. It's a good venue. It's
Yeah,
a great
yeah,
venue.
yeah.
I think they took the bar out from downstairs, which is a shame.
Oh.
But
well, I don't need it.
they have the dance hall. No, I don't need it either. But but it's a good venue, and I'm looking forward to the talk. So I'll be there for sure,
Good.
helping out. And I know Bob's the powerhouse
Worked
behind
hard,
this
yeah.
stuff. So, thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank
know?
you very much. I hope it wasn't too boring.
Definitely. No. I think people got to peek in on just me and you catching up and stuff. But I'm definitely going to be picking your brains more about the bee window thing.
Do you have? Are we off the air or still on the air?
Not yet. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I'm just curious about how many people watch. Do you have numbers on how many people watch?
Yeah, we have 3.2 people that watch every
Okay,
month.
Well, hello to all three of you.
3.2. I don't know. The .2 is a little weird, but no, I actually don't know. But you know what's funny? I always tease my family watches, and when people were calling in back in the day, I could always tell it was their voice, but they would use a different name. And all over the place, I run into people who go, "Oh, I saw the show. I loved the show." And I'm like, really? There must be at least 16 or 20 people that watch the show every week. I don't know.
Well, there was I think I get people occasionally who see these things that I've done 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, there must be some sort of cycle through that
keeps popping up on YouTube.
More on, well, it's more on Vermont Public Television.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you've been a commentator a lot over the years, right?
Yeah. So I'm a
lot of people picking
commodity.
your brain.
Oh well. Anyway,
yeah.
But it's
so
nice.
just we've got, what do I got here? I think I've got a couple more minutes. We got 5 more minutes. So I just want to ask. So you moved up here in the '70s. Where from? You and Chris?
Oh gosh. Well, I was working for a newspaper in Chicago, and she had just finished graduate school. She'd gone to Northwestern, and then she'd gone to Berkeley for a master's degree, and we said, well, I was, it's complicated. I was working on 2 different books at the same time, and so I thought, oh God, maybe we'll go and see if we could actually really write and
get away from all the distractions.
Well, sort of, yeah, but also Vermont was pretty cool, and a lot of people were coming here, and so then we sort of put together this life for 3 or 4 years of writing, and then I realized I wasn't going to really be much of a writer, so I went back to work for newspapers. So I first worked at a newspaper in New Hampshire, then I worked for a newspaper in Michigan, and then I came back to work for the Free Press.
Oh, okay.
And did that, and then started again to write books, and did that for 5 years, and then I was in the legislature for 6 years, and then I taught school for 15 more years, and it's been a checkerboard life. I mean, I don't know if I'd get up and say this is the way people want to live.
Yeah, but it's funny every once in a while. I always tell everybody, don't do the math, right? How long you've been doing a thing.
That's right.
And but to look back once in a while is pretty fun, It's like, to just imagine, like, here we are now. Me and you, we're sitting here now, and so what I've been telling people, whenever I get stressed out, they're like, "How are you doing?" I go, "Good enough," and then I tell them, on paper, I'm amazing. Right? So,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I just wrote a memoir, and the title is "Better to Be Lucky Than Smart," and
that's your memoir.
Life.
Better to be lucky than smart.
Better to be lucky than smart.
I love that. That's great. And you said you're writing 2 books again now?
Well, that's one. That's just
Okay.
about done. And then Jeff Danziger and one of my neighbors were collecting essays by 40 Vermonters about what the state's going to be like in 25 years. And we've just about got them all ready to go. We got 2 or 3. So that won't be out till next year.
Okay. Now, does that, just a sneak preview, does that run the gamut of positive outlooks and not as positive outlooks?
Yes, it does.
It does?
It does.
Yeah. Just without going into too much detail, where do you fall on the spectrum of?
I don't have to write one.
Yeah, you don't have to write one, just putting it together?
No.
Jeff's illustrating it? Jeff's
going to illustrate it, yep. And we're trying to think of a title right now. So we'll think of something, and then we want to have probably one of his illustrations, and then the one debate is how many. We can't illustrate every essay,
right?
So we'll probably see if he'll do 6 or 8. It will be sprinkled through the book. I mean, it won't be. We said 500 to 1,000 words. So if you have 40, that's 40,000 words. That's not a long book.
Yeah.
So we think it'll be
It'll be fun, interesting. I
fun.
can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah.
You know, I always adopt. I mean, in general.
So if you think of something, if you think of a title, let me know.
I will. I'll be noodling that around.
We'll
for
give
a
you
while.
credit if it's really good.
Okay. No, I love the idea. I always adopt a wait and see attitude. You know, that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on anything because everything can go sideways and left and right and up and down. So I just kind of adopt a wait and see attitude. And
Well, you
see
don't want
what's
to wait
going
too
on.
long. I mean, you know. I mean, I guess you can get away with waiting on some things, but
Right.
this is.
But getting involved, right? You've been involved. I'm painfully involved in a lot of these things, but. Anyway, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait till
my
Monday.
pleasure. I mean, heck, easy to run your mouth. I mean, I'm sure Chris is on the road, so she would not sit and watch this because she'd had criticisms about, oh, you're coughing too much, or you're looking at the camera. So just as well that she's not.
Well, I never go back and watch it because I don't want to. And my sister one time told me, "You make funny faces." I'm like, well, that's not helpful. What does that mean? I make funny faces. Okay,
Well,
great.
it engages people. You know,
Maybe.
No, but I think you're right. I never read my prose after it's done. You see all the zits, all the.
Right. We're always like this close to everything we do, right? So I know it's true.
All right. So
well, I
is
really
that it?
appreciate it. It was fun. That was it. And just want to thank everybody for tuning in to CCTV.
Thank you very much.
And Preservation Burlington. Yep. Thank you, Bill, for being here. And for more information on Burlington history, our tours, the upcoming events, or to get a marker for your historic house, go to preservationburlington.org, and we'll see you next month. Thanks so much.